It was online gaming before online gaming was even a thing. And yet, still the same amount of racist preteens that we've all come to know and love. It's the Sega Channel. This week on Nothing Good.
Well, good evening, afternoon, wherever it is where you are. Good morning. How you guys doing today?
Ni hao.
Doing good. Yeah. We have a very special guest. Obviously, we got Mr. Brown here. You got Doc. But I don't really know what to call you outside of maybe just Mac.
It is appropriate.
Yeah, that's kind of fit over the years.
Yeah, Mac here has been a friend of ours for many years.
Many years.
10 plus years. Close personal best friend. He's been a big cornerstone of what we do creatively over the years. Yeah. And we've been wanting to get him on the show to be a part of what we're doing for a while now. And here he is, and I'm real excited about that. Introduce yourself, man.
Well, how's it going, everybody? My name is Dave. Everybody kind of calls me Mac. I've known Mr. Brown, Mr. Jones here for... Herb's underselling it. It's almost 20 years now.
Nigh 20 years.
It's almost 20 years.
Yeah.
And it's always interesting, like, just when you think back about how we actually know each other.
Yes.
And the degrees of separation that actually ultimately came together when we realized how we actually knew each other. I met Herb through one of my best friends growing up, Ryan. They'd worked together. And myself and Mr. Brown.
Yep.
Work together.
We just passed the 18-year anniversary of being friends.
That's absolutely correct.
October 13th, 2003. I know the day that I met this man. Down to a nutshell.
That's wild.
And the working relationship that we had, Noah, was actually very unique.
It was.
As I will, and spoiler for anybody who might have kids in the car. Or
anyone finding this fucking show has learned not to put... If you are playing this for your kids, let me just break this down. Two things. One, you're a shitty parent.
100%.
But two, if your kids are listening to this, hey kids, fuck you.
Yeah.
Blame your dad.
That's the first fuck you for the night.
There it is.
There'll be many more.
But I was the store Santa Claus at Toys R Us back in the early 2000s.
Yep.
And Noah was the photographer elf.
Yes, I was.
And my introduction to Noah was me in full Santa costume, sitting in the chair, waiting for kids to come up. He's getting the camera ready. He starts taking some... practice Polaroids, because we were using Polaroids for that.
High quality retail operation.
Yeah. And he just goes into a full Central European photographer voice and just starts going, look at me, you're a tiger. Give me tiger. Go ahead, give me tiger. Yes, you're aggressive. Grr, you're aggressive. Yes, and I'm spent. and I'm like, what the fuck?
Did not know this man.
What did I just get myself into? Like, I signed up for this because I'm jolly, right? You know, I can roll with this.
You can be jolly, sure.
And then this just, I don't even know how to describe Noah at that stage. Just comes in as a hurricane.
Long-haired, AIDS skinny kind of a thing, you know, generally.
Wait, what did you just say? Did you say AIDS skinny?
Possibly.
Okay. Just making sure that's what you said.
Yeah, that is what I said.
Okay. For just the price of a cup of coffee, you could sponsor.
No one sponsored me.
Noah's Nutrition.
Shied him away.
For the last, year of high school they had in the first couple years
Sally
afterwards.
Struthers was not coming over.
No, she wasn't.
So,
and then as we start to get to know each other and everything, it comes up in conversation, this guy that I know named Herb. Who's really into wrestling, and Noah said, I know a guy named Herb who's really into wrestling. And then
the world just collided.
The worlds just collided.
Yep.
You know?
I'm okay with being like connective tissue for people.
Yeah. And we're like, okay, so this is a thing now.
This is absolutely a thing now, because we had not actually all hung out together at that stage together. So, and then, the rest is history.
Yeah, here we are, man.
It is. These two gentlemen that I'm sitting across from were both in my wedding.
Yes.
And I appreciate it. I love them with all my heart. I just want to say the first time the three of us all hung out together was actually at one of Ryan's parties, in which I got so drunk that I hung onto the carpet for fear of falling into the ceiling. That was that time. That was the first time.
One of my great memories of you at a Ryan party was being so drunk that we thought we watched the same episode of SportsCenter about 15 times and it had only been on for 22 minutes. And just laying on the couch, not having any idea how time worked.
No, my goodness.
At that
It was gone.
Yeah, it was completely gone.
Oh, so good. But welcome to the show, Mac.
Thank you, guys. It's great to be here. Gentlemen, I'll let you in on a little secret here.
Yeah.
This is my first actual real-life podcasting experience.
Wow. We get to be your
It's
first.
exciting.
You're my first. So,
God, it's special.
I've
Put
been
towels down, just in case.
I've been saving my cherry for you two specifically. Once I started hearing the podcast,
Don't do that. I don't want your cherry.
and I'm excited to have the two of you tag team me to take that.
Yes.
To just pop that cherry on this.
100% don't want your cherry.
Hey, I like cherries.
Well, you can have them both.
Double up.
You can have all
How you
of it.
doing? As long as you watch. But you have to look disapproving.
Oh, I already am.
So I thought it would take, before we get started, I'd like to kind of ingratiate you to our listeners. Just in case you don't know, this is an international podcast now. So there's a lot of different countries in the world who will be getting their first taste of the Mac.
Puerto Rico is not actually a separate country.
No, it is not. And we also don't have any listeners in Puerto Rico yet. But perhaps the popping of your cherry could bring them in.
It could. I have some connections to Puerto Rico.
Okay.
And if I can, get the word out, perhaps we're just going to bring that into the fold.
Well, hello, Puerto Rico.
Yes.
I don't want to be premature, but at our age, sometimes it happens.
Again, this is my first podcast, so premature is probably going to be a theme as we kind of go through this.
Sounds messy, but let's get messy together. Dave, I have, Mac, I have 3 questions I'd like to ask you to kind of help our listeners get to know you. Number 1, are you ready?
Okay, yes. Great first question.
That was the first question. That was
excellent.
a test question. That was a trick.
Yeah.
So let's go question number 2.
Yeah.
Then, Dave, how big is your dick?
Wow. How big is my dick? Big enough that my girlfriend stays.
Okay. Good to know. Question 2, do you prefer to use your dick for good or evil?
It's a little bit of both. Sometimes even like mid-use of dick, there's a heel turn.
Nice.
And, I just get the crowd to turn on me. So,
nice.
And
everyone watching.
Everybody watching. Yeah. Some chanting, some booing.
You got to judge it off a crowd reaction.
Yeah.
That's the
Exactly.
It's about the listener. It's about the people watching at home, though, too. It's not just about the live crowd.
And, I would like to think that at this stage that my dick is quite like John Cena because you can't see it.
That's a good one.
There it is. So, not the F5, just the F5 inches. So,
the F5 inches.
Goes right to it.
That's a t-shirt.
There it is.
And then the last question is, if your dick was an animal, what animal would it be?
Oh, if my dick was an animal, what kind of animal would it be? Well, the first thing that kind of came to my mind was a porcupine.
Oh.
Yeah. There's a lot going on down there. Mm-hmm. You could get stung if you're not paying attention. Yeah. It's a little sharp.
There's going to be a prick.
It's a little sharp. And then sometimes I thought like maybe an armadillo because of just the general shape and texture of it. So
perfect.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Very descriptive.
This is the quality content that has made us the 1,943rd most popular podcast in Algeria.
There you go.
Look, you got to start somewhere.
Hey, that's fine.
And I've never had anything but love for the Algerians.
The fine people of North Africa, yes.
In fact, I always thought that a film that you and I had made many years ago, Revelations of a Scaly Kind, plug, that you can also find on YouTube if you search for that sort of thing.
If you dare view it.
In that movie, I was dressed up as a giant monster baby wearing a diaper. Mm-hmm. And at the early stages of our film career, that picture got surprisingly a number of views that we weren't really quite sure where they're coming from.
No.
I feel like Algeria was that place.
That was the thing?
I really do. Yeah, I feel like that really blew up there, and we had at least a solid 20 people that put that on loop for a couple of weeks and really drove those numbers up.
So what you're saying is you're probably like the David Hasselhoff of Algeria.
The David Mick Hasselhoff, yes.
I like that.
Thank you.
I'm just surprised the Academy looked past Dave in a giant baby monster costume. My favorite part of that production was spraying you down so you glisten.
Yeah.
He had to be a wet giant monster baby.
Well, of course.
I mean, if you pay attention in films, and I remember when I first started working on movie sets, I remember asking one of the locations individuals or one of the locations props guys or something about why are the streets always wet? There's not a cloud in the sky. There's no rain in this movie, but as soon as I look at it, the road is just drenched. It looks
Super
like
moist.
And they're like, well, it just looks better. I'm like, oh.
Reason enough.
It is,
Yeah.
it is a visual aesthetic.
So if I'm going to be wearing a diaper duct taped around my waist,
yeah, it was duct taped.
let's glisten this thing
Wet it down.
for the fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That we now know are in Algeria. And that's
Yes.
canon now.
That
by
is
the way.
canon.
Never
Yeah.
coming back
So-
from that.
In the same vein of what you guys are talking about, not necessarily Algeria, but
babies.
Previous episodes, I've been getting some really good positive feedback on a couple episodes we've had. TMNT.
Turtles. I got a lot of positive feedback. I was not expecting that.
Yes. I spoke to a couple of people who loved it. Absolutely loved it. Same with Masters of the Universe. That one continues to get a lot of positive reviews. I'm totally down with it. But
Yeah.
I just want to say I appreciate all of our listeners.
Yeah.
We
No
did
matter
not
where you
expect to
are.
have any more than 3 or 4, but somehow we've managed to get way more than that.
Yeah, we've got a few more that we appreciate everything, and we promise to bring you the same gritty, hard-hitting truth content, such as that Leonardo definitely is the kind of Ninja Turtle that wants to be cucked. I mean, that's just how it is.
This is true.
This is how it is.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
speaking of cucking, let's get on to the kind of thing, and I trust me, this goes with here, is that we have a typical, wonderful ritual here on the show in which we cue the listener in to what we're drinking. But just like Leonardo and his cucking, Herb is merely watching today.
Yeah, I'm drinking water.
Yeah, you're being beer cucked right now.
Well, because I'm incredibly hungover.
Yeah. Okay.
So
you had your fill yesterday.
Oh
and
my
now you're
God.
just watching today.
Yeah, you're not lying.
All right. Well, Mac, would you like to tell the listener what we're imbibing here today?
We are drinking beer.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah. It is
Beer, as
It
you
is
say.
Trojanator, double bock beer.
I often like double box. A bock in each hand kind of works.
Yeah, if you're going to double fist, it's better to double fist with double box.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You say sometimes I get a little bock hungry. I'm a bit of a bock fiend, I guess you could say.
A lot of times when I would be leaving your house, you would look at me with your deep Arnold Schwarzenegger eyes and just say, "I'll be Bach." And I was like, I see where you're
I
going
thought you were
with
going to ask
this.
me all the times I've asked you to whip your bock out.
Well, I do rock out with my Bach out.
Beautiful.
That is for sure.
For you, my friend. Thank
Absolutely,
you.
for you. Thank you.
Would you like to describe what you're drinking?
Water.
You fucking madman.
And it is so tasteless.
Just like my humor.
Well, so I would be remiss if I didn't explain to the adoring fans about why Herb is drinking water.
Yes.
I was there when it happened, everybody, and I don't know quite what you would call the drink that was being made at the party that we were at. Herb was in fact making the drink.
I made it, yeah.
And it's a throwback to, back into our early 20s when we would just experiment with whatever the bar had to offer and just kind of combine some things. And he combined a lot of shit. As I often said, when he gave me the shot, I'm like, I think this would actually take paint off of a paintbrush. And he's like, yeah, just drink it. Just don't. It's better not to think about it, which Herb said to me a lot in my life.
Doc does have that knack for most of the times you've ever been the most drunk in your life are because of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have no shame in that
Sinister.
regard.
Right.
Sinister. I've never been referred to as a sinister.
when drinking, sometimes you can be downright sinister.
I like it.
Yeah.
But when
Thank you.
But when I got home last night after drinking these beverages, I fell asleep sitting up, and somehow woke up around 4:00 in the morning. My shirt wasn't on. Other things were, and I was just sitting there, and my dog was just judging me. So, and I did not nearly drink as much of this as you did. So, I'm happy to even see you here today.
Yeah, it was rough. It was a rough night,
Yeah.
and morning, and afternoon, and evening.
But rough.
But I'm here.
Rough mornings usually follow good nights.
Well, you know what? The show must go on, so I'm here, hungover or not.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you being a part of today's episode, which is
Nothing good.
no, well, I mean, the show is nothing good, and it's probably the episode's also probably nothing good.
No, we're talking about Sega Channel.
Sega Channel,
Right? So
Sega.
a big part of this is, like, obviously this is a part of our childhood. Did you have Sega Channel growing up?
I thought we were here to talk about the Super Nintendo channel, so I'm really fucked.
Ah, shit.
Did not get that memo.
Did not get it. The disc
No.
drive.
So everybody, it's been great being here. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Get the
we'll
fuck out.
We'll talk to you guys at another episode. Apparently, hopefully the next one with Leonardo is cucking.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I mean, when is he not though? I think we've established that
Yeah.
canonically.
I always felt like that's why Raphael had such the animosity towards him.
Yeah.
Was because that Leo was always watching.
I mean, yeah, I kind of feel like at this point, yeah, like I get us a picture of Splinter. He's like, Leonardo, to be a leader, you must watch as I bang your girlfriend. And then Mikey uses a skateboard in a creative way.
Oh, okay.
Well, turtles have remarkably large dicks, so they didn't have to really go very far to watch. I mean, they could have been fucking around corners, and the turtle there was only so big.
You know, we didn't also mention that turtles are absolutely riddled with diseases, and and that April just had those things hanging around her
Oh, my
apartment.
God. Yeah. Eating off her plates,
Oh,
opening
yeah.
a refrigerator.
Thank God the foot destroyed that thing.
Yeah.
She might have had a serious health code hazard on her hand.
Eating off her plates.
Oh, they wished.
Yeah.
They wished.
So,
Yeah.
did you have Sega Channel?
So,
We'll get right back to that.
so I actually did not have Sega Channel. I did have friends that had Sega Channel, and the thing that always really, the first thing that I thought about when I was thinking about the Sega Channel was just how it didn't work.
Oh, yeah.
In those particular situations, my friends had it in the really early days of the Sega Channel, and they hadn't quite worked out some of the bugs and some of the download issues that were kind of going on at that point in time. And we just struggled with it, in those first couple of years in the mid 90s and 94, technically mid 90s.
So it launched December 14th, 1994.
1994.
We both did research for this. How about that?
Well, listen, I always do my research.
I mean, sometimes you do.
I do every time.
I very rarely do. So
I always have
I'm just
something
projecting.
written.
Yeah, you have to have something written down.
I have something.
Usually it's just my intros,
you go.
and then I mention, mention dicks, and
In big bold letters, mention dicks.
Google Notes lets you bold and italicize that. So dicks is often both.
I feel like what's missing in this podcast studio is a Family Feud board, so that as Noah hits the keywords, it just ding, and
up.
just we see how many people in the audience were waiting.
Show me
for-
dicks.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be good. I have to note to self, get a Family Feud board.
So I know you had Sega Channel.
I
Mr.
did.
Brown.
I did.
Now I'll start kind of. I got Sega Channel the year it came out. Okay.
Well, would that be? Did you get it on 94 or 95? That within the first
It was
year
90.
release.
I got it in 94
Okay.
for Christmas.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I remember kind of it was like a thing where I was telling my parents about it. I'd first seen anything about it in Sega Visions. So I had a subscription to Sega Visions. And I'm like, this sounds amazing. Because it's such a cool idea for the time, especially. And my parents nah, we're not. My dad did some research. I'm like, that's a subscription. No.
No.
What? No.
Yeah.
Fuck that. And so I was like, oh, okay. And how parents do, they'll tell you no, they're not going to get you
they'll
something.
completely
and
stonewall you.
100%
Yeah.
just boom, Christmas time, here you go. Don't ask for anything else the rest of the year,
Yeah.
the next 3 years, because I got to pay this every single month for you.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, was $15 a month.
Yeah, in most markets. Some it was a little bit more in the United States, depending on your access to Turner Cable. I found out.
Interesting.
My precursory research said that the highest average subscription was $20, but the average was $15, which means that someone paid less than $15.
And you know what? Adjusted for inflation, that's almost $30 today.
Yeah. How you don't think it'll be $15. I pay $15 a month for Xbox Game Pass right now.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, yeah. In 1994, That's a lot of money.
That's not counting the initial like the adapter. You have to pay for that initially.
Yeah, well, the activation fee came with the adapter.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of for that time. That was a lot of money for some parents, I'm sure.
I mean, this is the same era where a Super Nintendo game was $75 brand new.
Right.
I mean, I never ever forget going to buy WrestleMania the arcade game for the Super Nintendo, and it was $75 at Toys R Us. $75. And at the time, you're like, oh, this is just what it is now. I swear to God, the game would have to come with a complimentary handy for me to pay $75 for it right now. I don't care what quality the handy is. It's just the thought that counts.
Well, the PS5 games are like $70 now.
They are, yeah.
It's crazy.
I don't own a PS5 yet, so we'll get there. But when the time comes, I will ask, is this $70 for Miles Morales? Is it actually include the handy from Miles Morales?
So
I'll take it.
When did you get Sega Channel?
Late 95, spring of 96, somewhere in that vicinity. Just like anything else we've covered on the show, if something was out of my wheelhouse to afford as a 10, 11-year-old child, the secret was getting my father to think it was really cool. So my friend had Sega Channel from its launch, and I played it over his house, and I was like, it barely ever worked over there. But it was cool enough for me to tell my dad about it every time I saw my dad. And then for my dad's like, bullshit. And I'm like, yeah, and you can do this. And you just go to the cable. And I don't think, because it was in our area, you got it through TCI cable.
That's where we got it from.
Right?
Yep.
And I think where my dad lived at that time when I first started telling him, they didn't have TCI. They had something else. But when he moved to an area that had TCI cable, that some bitch got the Sega Channel like right away. So that's when I first got introduced to sitting around all day waiting for it to work. And then getting it to work for like 45 minutes.
So
and then it was dinner time.
I can say that since I was an early adopter, that I had some mixed experiences. Now, I only had Sega Channel for probably 2 years. I'm actually pretty amazed my parents were willing to pay for it for that damn long.
I mean, yeah, that's a lot of money for a long time for a Sega Channel.
For something they're never going to touch, and they did not. But towards the end, before we got rid of it, which I was not happy about, but it is what it is, it was working. It was stable. But the problem always was, when you want to do like a test drive or something, when you're waiting in at that little bar, and you're just waiting and waiting and waiting. And how many times I had to just turn the thing off and turn it back on?
Yep.
Watching Sonic,
hooking that damn cable up to the thing.
Yeah.
Well, at least that was my first interaction of hooking things up myself. Was running the cable to the Genesis
with the
controller.
coaxial
because
cable.
You couldn't leave it on there because your father would scream at you if you left the thing on the coaxial. That's how you break the expensive thing. But if you wanted to pop out a game and pop it in. But so here's a fun little fact: the Sega Channel, as we know it and refer to it lovingly today, did come out in 1994, at the end of 94.
Right.
Announced in April 93, but it is not the first attempt that Sega ever did.
It's not, you're right.
You're right,
That's right.
yeah. Their original release came out in Japan in 1990. I have the name of it right here as soon as I figure out. The Sega Meganet.
The Meganet, yes.
Yeah. 17 whole games, which just tells you that for as much shit as we can rightfully give Sega for how they had the whole world on their plate and they just fucking threw it away. They did.
Yeah, they did.
They still tried some shit. They've tried some shit all the time. All until they stopped being able to do it because they went fucking broke from trying the wrong shit.
Sega has been consistently, dangerously ahead of the curve. And it never works for them because they're always just a little too far ahead than what they should be.
Well, so my experience with Sega when I was growing up was that the Sega wasn't mine.
Yeah.
So, and I was very fortunate to be in a 2-system household at that stage in the early 90s, because I have an older brother. My older brother's 9 years older than I am, and he was working at that point in time, also working at Toys R Us. So the Sega was his, and the Super Nintendo, was kind of de facto mine. And even though it was still also kind of technically his, but
it was bought for the house.
Yeah. No, it wasn't. As you were saying that, my experience of hooking things up, mine was, taking my brother's Super Nintendo downstairs and hooking it up to the TV that we had in the room where I could, play with my toys and stuff like that. So, the Sega Channel was never really something that I could do in my house because I just did not have that access to the Sega to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But the Sega was always such a like the mystical Yeti. It was like it was the Loch Ness monster. If I was lucky enough to catch a glimpse of it, and I did actually have like some games for Sega that I would be able to go up. Like my brother was at work or something, and I'd go into his room and I'd play and everything, and then he'd be coming home and I'd run out of the room. So because I wasn't really supposed to do all that, but so we didn't really have the access to it, and unfortunately. The group of friends that I had at that age were also Super Nintendo friends. Yeah. So we were in a very Super Nintendo kind of heavy world there. But the thing that always kind of got me about the Sega Channel was just that at the time that it came out in the Sega's life cycle was near the end of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So, when you were hitting some of the games that you were hitting at that point in time, depending on what they had available to you, because they didn't have the full Sega, library. I think there's something like 50 games or so.
Typically,
they got there to 70 by the end of it.
Yeah.
70 games that didn't fucking work.
Right. And I might be jumping ahead here a little bit, but the glimmers of Sonic Spinball that I got through the Sega Channel when I was able to. But a lot of that stuff we'd already kind of had the cartridges for, and also with the challenges that you guys have already been saying about how the download times and waiting and then resetting it and everything. At that point in time, you just go get the fucking cartridge.
Yeah. Which brings me to my next actual segment. And we will talk towards the end of this thing about how fucking ambitious and ahead of its time the fucking Sega Channel was, right? I mean, the idea of cloud gaming in 1994. What the fuck, right? We barely do cloud gaming right now, right?
Yeah.
But the whole entire concept, the main business model for Sega, especially in the United States, to get in on the Sega Channel was to get a hold of a chunk of that lucrative rental market, which is a fucking sentence that nobody younger than 25 will fucking understand right now. Yeah. The rental market, when you could take your ass to not just Blockbuster, because that's name dropping. That's like say Bugs Bunny, right?
Right.
But fucking grocery stores in our area had rental departments.
Yeah,
you could go to Rick's Groceries and rent a video game.
Not just like, we have a couple racks of things that you can rent. Mm-hmm. No, it's a third of the store.
Yeah, like it's the nicest area of the store.
It is absolutely the nicest area of
the store. And you go in there and you're like, oh, what do we got today? And then you walk in and the absolute glory of that last era of Genesis and Super Nintendo, even pre-64, because I think 64 is when games started to each have... Nintendo had the cartridge, Dreamcast, and Saturn, and discs, and it is that there was just so many fucking games for the Genesis and the Super Nintendo.
Yep, so
many games that you could just knock one off the shelf randomly blindfolded, and the chances are that even if it was shit, it would buy you through that 2 or 3 days. If you're like, no, I'm good, I'm back. No, I don't need that one. Mm-hmm. And then the ones, but the rental market, that's the whole point, right?
Well, as you said, the shit from the rental market, it would be very, very fortunate if you got to a game that you really wanted to play.
Oh, yeah.
I had Mega Man Soccer from the rental market longer than anybody ever should.
For sure. Mutant League Football for me.
I had that, we'll talk about Mutant League Football.
Oh, we better fucking do
One of the greatest games that maybe nobody ever talks about and should talk about. Mm-hmm. But I had Mega Man Soccer from the rental market so much, I actually started to really enjoy Mega Man Soccer. That's how long I had it. I got it to the point, because in that game... if you beat a team, you got their player to put in your lineup.
Yeah.
I played that game so much that I had basically a different character at every position on the soccer field.
So good. So Mega Man Soccer. That's amazing.
But you're right. The rental market, especially back in the mid 90s, and I look back on that very fondly of being able to go on a Friday night, going down to the rental store.
Oh yeah, it's late on a Friday night.
Absolutely. See if you can get a new release before everybody else gets the new release. Mm-hmm. Hopefully they rewound the tape, because we're still talking VCRs here, everybody.
Oh yeah. Oh, my father was one of the first people. He was the very first person I ever knew. And he bought it for my grandfather, because apparently he would rent videos for my grandfather all the time. And my grandfather would immediately complain if it wasn't rewound. Even though it expressly said to be kind and rewind, heathens didn't do it. My dad was the first person that ever had one of those. Its only function was to rewind the tape. to speed rewind. Did you guys ever see those? Like
Yeah,
the speed rewind machines?
just the rewind deck that
Yeah, that's
people had
all
in
it
their
was.
sets.
Like,
All
it's
it
like you
did.
put it in, you wait, the thing pops up when it's done, and then you can put it in and get through the whole fucking United Artists and TriStar Columbia Pictures.
Waiting the 4 minutes to rewind the tape in your VCR was so fucking long that you had to go ahead and invest
In a
a
separate
lot
deck.
of money in a separate thing that only rewound the tape in maybe 30 seconds.
Saved you 3 minutes of tape.
3 minutes of tape. That's
Or,
it.
one of the first time I remember him using it in front of me was he rented JFK on VHS, which was 2 VHSs,
Yes.
right? So that maybe saved him 7-8 whole minutes by having that thing. Wow. But yeah, that's God, dude. Like sometime we should do an entire episode about Blockbuster and West Coast Video, and all that other shit. But yeah, so that was the origins of and we've covered now, which was one of my questions. That did you have one? But let me ask you guys a question.
Yes.
Sega Channel. If I had to ask you to pick a game or games that you most in your heart relate to the Sega Channel, what do you think of? You firing up the Sega Channel?
Primal Rage.
Yeah, oh God, right?
That was the first time. The beauty of Sega Channel was, for me, was just the fact that there was just so many games. Because I didn't grow up with a lot of money, so like buying games was like a thing. Was like birthday, Christmas. That's it. There was no
Left
like
his Jeffrey Bucks, and you went shopping. Maybe
that's right.
There was no like, hey, Dad, can I have this? Sure. It was like your birthday's not for 8 more months.
Primal Range, though. Yeah.
Yeah, but it gave you the option to play so many games that you would never otherwise touch, or even like you'd see in a magazine, like, oh, that'd be cool. I'm not gonna get it, but it'd be cool.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that, because I luckily enough had 2 rental places like a block or 2 from each other growing up, and they had a decent selection, but nothing special.
Huh. But there was so many goddamn games for the Genesis and for the Super Nintendo that it didn't really matter. If you had 12 games, sure, that's like maybe a 30th of the current release market this month. You know?
But yeah. So Primal Rage, and Primal Rage. That's the game that I just didn't expect to be nearly as gnarly as it was.
It was full on a thing.
How about yourself?
So I have 3. Primal Rage is absolutely number 1. Absolutely number 1, because I distinctly remember that's the first time I ever heard about the game, was all the hype for that contest they had in 95 to, I guess if you played Primal Range enough, then you got through it far enough, there was like a number or an address or something, and then, something like that. And I remember like, oh, I gotta try this, because that was at a peak Mortal Kombat 1, Mortal Kombat 2 kind of things. Games were just like, oh, I want to fight as violently as I can. Who cares if I'm a shitty fucking dinosaur? I want to see blood, and I want to tear somebody up in it.
Yes.
So definitely Primal Rage. 2 is Vector Man.
Oh, Vector Man was so
Vector
good.
Man.
Vector Man was like, because Sega Channel used to have that at the banner at the top, and it was in every fucking game magazine. Vector Man's the new thing. Vector Man is the new. The Genesis video games will never be the same after Vector Man. So you're like, oh, I gotta try fucking Vector Man. It's not really a good game, but it did look impressive.
It was visually so good looking.
I like Vector Man, and I relate Primal Rage and Clay Fighter, like those games together, because that was like, to me, that was the same kind of processing there. But the game I think I most relate to the Sega Channel, because it's the game I actually played the most on Sega Channel when I got it to fucking work, was Theme Park.
Never played that.
Never played that.
It is the spiritual predecessor to Roller Coaster Tycoon. It is very similar. You couldn't design your roller coasters, but it was almost exactly what you remember out of Roller Coaster Tycoon. You're laying paths, you're putting rides down, you're setting in mission, you're trying to do campaigns. It was Roller Coaster Tycoon, but it was the one fucking game that was on Sega Channel for like 18 months that worked every fucking time. So my ass played Theme Park then.
Yeah.
Waiting for that bar, you're like, shit. And then you wait for another bar, shit. And then hit Theme Park, motherfucker loaded right away. You're like, okay, here we go. Theme Park
it
again.
is. How about yourself, Mac?
So Vector Man was one of the games that I was going to talk about, because that was so with Sega Genesis, and again, my brother being my conduit into the Sega platform.
Yeah.
I was always kind of at the mercy of some of the games that he wanted to play. And of course, him being older, there was always a lot more of the, mature type games that you think of. Mutant League Football, and Mortal Kombat. I even taking a step back from the Sega Channel, Mortal Kombat is the franchise that I associate most with the Sega Genesis.
Oh yeah, Blood Code.
Absolutely, ABACABB.
Get over here.
Yep.
And, we played a lot of the sports games on Sega, too. The NHL 93, 94, 95. We got that every year.
NHL 94, though. NHL 94 is peak. Right
so many fist fights broke out in my house between me and my brother playing those games. So there were games that were never going to come into my house that the Sega Channel would kind of, alert me to. So Vector Man obviously was one of them, because that was a game my brother would probably never be interested in playing. As one I mentioned, Sonic Spinball. I got really into playing Sonic Spinball.
Dude, that game was way better than it should have been.
It was way better than it should have been. And the fact that they were able to take advantage of the game's engine, of how quickly everything moves with the regular Sonic games, and just basically, you're ball the entire time and just go nuts. So that was one of them. Earthworm Jim. Earthworm Jim.
The unsung hero of the Sega
If I would
Genesis.
have gloves, I would throw them down for Earthworm Jim.
It is
like fucking classic.
Earthworm Jim is the unsung gem of the 16-bit generation. The fact that we have not gotten an Earthworm Jim for an Xbox or a PlayStation or a Nintendo,
a new one,
anything new, because of how just totally fucked up that game was. I never saw, and it's like, okay, Earthworm Jim, I've heard of this. It looks weird. I'm gonna try this, and just the level of just story arc, and you launch a cow in the first stage for no reason, and then later on at the game, the cow's gonna come into play.
Yes.
And it was not an easy game to play either.
No, it was. I think I don't want to jump on you, but absolutely to underline what you're saying is, I think the Genesis, even more than the Super Nintendo, because I think that had a lot of. It's a Nintendo.
Yeah.
Right. So there is a lot of first party games that were meant to be high level shit. See Earthbound, see Super Metroid, Super Castlevania. Right. A lot of those great games. But Genesis had a lot more play in there, and the games that were visually appealing to a younger audience weren't necessarily gameplay wise fitted for that audience. I think Earthworm Jim with the whipping of the head and everything, and that absolutely fits in line with that.
And the other game that I wanted to mention that, because you mentioned Primal Rage.
Yeah.
So, and I mentioned that we're a Mortal Kombat household, always really have been. Never really got into Street Fighter.
Nothing wrong with that.
Mortal Kombat just really kind of, the ninjas appealed to me and just kind of went from there. But there was another fighting game that kind of flew under the radar.
Yeah.
And I discovered it through the Sega Channel. And
I think I know what you're going to say.
It became my fighting game.
Yeah.
And it was something called, I'm getting a little close to the mic here.
Get there.
Yeah, a little closer.
Yeah. A little bit? A little more.
Yeah, a little more. Get
do me a favor. Lick your lips.
Don't do that.
Yeah, there it is.
All right, tell me.
Eternal Champions.
I knew you were going to fucking say it.
Absolutely.
We have previously mentioned Eternal Champions in an episode that is that's one of my dad's favorite games.
That game is so
that's
good.
That shit there,
that
dude.
Game, that game, first off, I think is just, again, in the lexicon of where we are in gaming, is so underrated.
Oh my God, yeah.
That we have not had an opportunity to see it again. And especially in a world that we're in today where nostalgia plays so heavy, especially on our generation, the ones that kind of, didn't get crushed by college and still kind of have money that we're working professionally and can spend it on shit.
Yep.
And that the market is so curtailed to us to be able to, do you remember this thing from the 80s and 90s that you loved? Here it is again.
Have
just a little bit more updated. Enjoy. Eternal Champions was amazing.
Yes.
You could taunt your opponent to get more life back in the game.
Yeah.
And I just remember, my brother and I, because I introduced my brother, it's like, you got to check this out, man. This is awesome. And we would just sit there on opposite sides of the screen, just freak, simpleton, and just go back and forth on that.
So good.
And it introduced, like the level fatalities.
Yep.
Where if you were able to beat somebody, and I don't even remember at this stage of my life about how we were able to get the characters. Like, this one character was named Xavier, and he would fight. If you fought in his home level, it was like Salem with a burning cross in the backyard, and in the background, and you could throw the dude up on the burning cross. And there was another guy where you fought in a jungle, and a T-Rex would come and just like eat you. But like that stuff was just so completely mesmerizing to me as a
and
kid.
And the characters were gorgeous in Eternal
They were
Champions.
awesome.
Like, they were way higher quality because a lot of the other fighters, you split down the path, and you had on the Mortal Kombat and Primal Rage side, it was photos of other people that had been animated. And on the other side was Eternal Champions and Street Fighter, which were hand-drawn fighters. Eternal Champions is the first game that I ever really wanted to do a combo in. Because I'd seen, when you're watching the demo, the computer's just dropping shit. And you're like, oh my god, like, how do I do this?
Yeah.
It was the first game that I ever looked at, like, a games tips and tricks section that had characters combos, and I hand wrote it down on a notebook when I was at the Rite Aid. Never had the money to buy it. And I tried and I practiced until I hit that fucking combo, and it was so good, dude.
So I'm just doing real quick research on it because I was curious who developed and published the game specifically. It is a full-on Sega property, and I did not realize that.
First party.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
So
did not know.
Fast forward to years as us as young adults working in video games at Toys R Us.
Yes.
And then I had and I will say, the privilege to go back at even a later age to work in electronics at Toys R Us.
Same.
When they had the Sega plug and play.
Yeah, which I regret not buying.
I did buy.
Okay.
Yes. And what was great about that plug and play was that you had the ability to, if you had the cartridges still, it would play the cartridges in addition to the games that were downloaded on it. But one of the reasons why I did buy it, because my brother, when he sold his Sega, he sold a lot of his games. I was able to have some myself. But Eternal Champions, he bought, and that ended up being his. Because again, download time, we didn't want to keep waiting to re-download certain games, during playable sessions, right? So my brother would buy it. He sold it. But when I got the plug and play, Eternal Champions was one of the games available, and that instantly sold me. They were advertising, look, we have all the Mortal Kombat games, Mortal Kombat 1, 2, 3.
I've picked that thing up, like, I swear to God, every day for, like, months at Toys R Us.
Yeah.
Didn't buy it. So mad at myself for not buying it.
Yeah. And, but I saw Eternal Champions on there, which was one of, like, the two games that I really wanted it for. And the other one is you can get pretty commonly through any download channel, Altered Beast.
Yeah.
I really like that game on Sega.
That's pretty standard.
Yeah.
Fuck Altered Beast.
It's not a good game.
You heard me. All right. Fuck Altered Beast.
Without the benefit of a camera, nobody saw me giving Jones eyes as he said, "Fuck Altered Beast."
They feel you.
That game's garbage.
No, yeah. So,
all right,
Altered Beast, garbage. And I don't want to shift focus away from Eternal Champions, but I think this is a perfect segue. That Altered Beast is one of those games that was one of the first earliest memories I have of a hype thing. That when I played it, I was not just disappointed, but fucking mad about it.
Kind of upset about the situation.
Like, legit mad about it.
Rise from your grave.
Which is a shame, too, because and the positive thing is that the Altered Beast box art and the way that cartridge looks is iconic.
Yes.
Because it's iconically Genesis. And then you fucking play that game.
The game's so bad.
It's really bad. It's really, really, really bad. It's almost like iconically bad at this point. But God, everywhere you look for when you were like a fucking 5-year-old kid, 6-year-old kid, Altered Beast, Altered Beast, Altered Beast. You're like, all right, fucking give it to me. And you're like, what is this? Yeah, no. Just a platformer where you got an axe and then you turn into a shitty werewolf that does you no good.
No, it doesn't.
Be the shitty werewolf.
Like, that game is just... anyhow, not good.
We have triggered Doc
pissed me off.
Mentioning the Altered Beast.
I respect the hell out of you, but you tell me you like that shit?
Listen, I have fond memories of Altered Beast.
No, you don't. No one does. No one fucking does. If they tell you that, they're lying to themselves.
Yeah.
The only thing that's missing is you standing up and right in his face and
going,
fuck you.
Flipping a table over that's not even in the room.
I feel very strongly about how bad that game is.
Not great. Not great at all, Altered Beast was. And I think it's also because it's, for some strange reason, years later, that just fucking clings on to people cling on to, the Genesis? You mean Altered Beast? It's like, no, I don't fucking mean Altered Beast.
That's not at all what I mean, you son of a bitch.
I did not like Sonic 2 or 3, but I would fucking live in Sonic 2 or 3 before I got to fucking sit through it.
Wait.
Wait, what did you say?
I didn't like Sonic 2 or 3.
How the fuck
amazing.
do you not like Sonic 2?
Huh.
No, here's my problem.
I find that really interesting.
I find that very interesting.
Because, and I appreciate the idea of Sonic being multiplayer, But whenever you fucking went split screen with that shit, the quality in every part of that game dropped so fucking hard.
True.
And also, you both know, my brother, could you imagine trying to be Sonic while that motherfucker dicks around his tails and nothing productive is happening in this fucking game? Oh, I get to play games with you now. No big deal. And he just fucking goes off. He's like, I don't know if I've ever made it past the third level because A, the game looks so shitty and Drew is also so shitty. And you fucking heard me. I know you fucking listen to this show now. You know what I'm talking about. You're the reason I don't like Sonic 2 or 3. But you know what?
Sonic and Knuckles is amazing.
Sonic and Knuckles.
So good.
So good. Dude, putting that adapter on that shit,
my God.
that was mind-blowing shit.
Yeah, it
I
was.
like, that, I used to just looking for games. Like, borrowing games. Like, here, come over to my house. Just plug that into my Sonic and Knuckles. Let's see what kind of level we get from that. Let's just get it in there.
This was really the first time in Noah's life when he started experimenting.
Yeah.
This is really where it came from.
So, just like...
Here, why don't you bring that over here? Let me put this in there and let's see what happens.
Let's just see what happens.
Basically,
let's see how you feel about it. Let's not immediately react. Let's just see. Let's just get a feel of the room.
Let's just kind of...
My mom's got some Barry Manilow or Michael Bolton we can put on.
She's not going to be home. She will not be home for 2 hours.
No. It's my mom. She was never home. She was probably playing Sonic and Knuckles with somebody else at some other spot.
Cool. This is a slight segue off topic, but I feel like this is a really good point to introduce to the audience one of the great stories of my relationship with Noah Brown.
Yes.
And that is how I met his mother.
Oh, so good.
And
so good.
I will start the story, and I will segue. I will set it up, and Noah will spike at this point. So we were working on what was our very first film.
Yes.
Together, over at Noah's house, and it was a little ditty called El Hombre Misterioso.
Con las bolas gigantes.
Sí. And we were at Noah's house. We were going over what we're going to be shooting that day, and we were going to be going over a lot of the blocking because this was really a silent film that we were doing.
Yeah.
So we're going over the blocking and everything like that, and Noah's mother comes over and walks into the room. I say, "Oh, hi, Mrs. Brown. I'm Dave." Woman does not look at me.
No, had her hand over her eyes. Have I told you the story?
Literally hand over her eyes.
Maybe.
Okay.
This is not an exaggeration. Hand over her eyes. So, and I'm thinking to myself, it's pretty fucking rude. But then I also know where I am. I'm not naive as to what household I'm in. So I'm just kind of thinking to myself, all right, so something's going on here that I'm just not privy to, right? So,
do you want me to hop in?
Go right ahead. This is a good time.
I had known for about a week. And to add in, we filmed the film at a park right across the street from my mother's house. So knowing about a week or so ahead of time that my new cohorts were going to be at my mother's house meeting her, I started to drip feed information to my mom. And I told her, I'm like, we have some friends coming over next week. They're going to come over here and they're going to film a movie. They're all really cool, except I just want to give you a heads up. It's not a big deal. But there's my friend Dave. But he's got like this weird growth coming out of his arms. And I don't know if it's like shingles, but they're like these little kind of pussy mounds that just stick out of his shirt. And no matter what shirts he has, you can clearly see them. So just don't look at them. Even if they're oozing, don't look at them. And I didn't just do this once. I did this every day to condition this woman.
He was being very generous to his mother to let her know not to make a scene when she saw me. I believe the term goiter was also used.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
In those conversations.
Yeah.
So after she walked through the room maybe 2 or 3 times.
By the way, if someone tells you, please don't make a big deal about this person's deformity, to walk in intentionally, hands over your eyes, not looking, is the worst fucking option.
It's absolutely not drawing attention to the situation. So then she finally brings herself to view the hideous, malformed man in her house, and she looks at me and she goes, "You're not messed up. You're not.
You're not messed
you're not
up.
There's nothing wrong with you." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know." And she goes, and she just starts yelling at Noah, and Noah's just laughing hysterically. I was like, "What the fuck did you say to her?"
it was peak. It was peak stuff there. But so that was the first time I know.
It was the first time I got to meet Noah's extended family.
Yes,
at that point,
and they all thought that you were Quasimodo
Absolutely.
until they almost met you. And that's a rule,
right? Yeah. Whatever you see on him, don't touch it. He's very sensitive about it.
Don't look at it. Don't make eye contact, especially if it starts oozing. Don't look at it.
Right.
Now, I think the word oozing, frequent use that I did of the word oozing, might have scared them away. But this is just a good heads up, listener. Don't let me have advance warning that. I'm gonna meet you because I'll tell people terrible things about you.
Well, I will say that I have adopted this strategy from you.
Perfect.
And as I've progressed through my life and feel like I have maybe not quite achieved the level of mastery quite as you have, but I will go extensively into the situation to catch people off guard in those scenarios as well.
Good, but also you set somebody up that no matter what you say at that point, and when they meet the real person, it's a much more positive influence.
Absolutely.
And now, instead of you having the opportunity to make a fool out of yourself to meeting a person, you're just coming peaches, and it's all roses at that point.
That's right.
I feel like there's a dating service in here somewhere.
Oh, we could offer that for people.
Yeah, I think so for sure.
Oh my god, we could call it definitely not a sexual predator.com. And we tell these
definitely
actually the person you're about to meet. Hello, miss. Sit down. The person you're about to meet is definitely not a sexual predator. They are totally allowed within 500 yards of any school, and they definitely don't have to tell their neighbors whenever they move into a neighborhood that they're on some kind of. Definitely not. Why would you bring that up? Anyway, here he is.
Yes, my name is Dave, and I just moved in down the street, and I'm legally obliged to tell you that. Yes. Thank you.
Oh my God, you should. If you ever move out of your house, you should literally go to the people in your neighborhood. Hi, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Dave, and I'm legally obligated to tell you that I am a registered Penguin season ticket holder.
Absolutely.
Like right up until that moment, they probably still won't let you around their children. But I mean, right up to that moment, it would be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the Sega Channel, though.
Yeah,
I was worried that this would become like a love letter to the Genesis,
but it is
not really talking about the Genesis. We're not really even talking about the Sega Channel.
Well, so I, was doing a little research about because in all the years that we had it, and just the oncoming years afterwards, I had no idea how it even really worked. I mean, I knew how it worked on a surface level, but like, how is this even working? So the Sega Channel website is still up, which blew my mind. It is still a thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I did a little digging, and there's like a little page that tells you how it works on the Sega Channel website.
No way.
And so I'm going to read it in my most 90s douchey voice I can come up with.
Which is your normal voice.
Yeah, you'll be surprised. So, all right. Ever wonder how you get all those awesome games per month? Well, it doesn't take a genius to learn how you get those ripping games through your Sega Channel adapter. You see, it all starts with the production team. They pull together and test the great games, art, text, and music you play every single month. The programming is loaded onto a CD-ROM disc. It's then sent to the big guys at the satellite station. These guys send a signal to that big tin can in the sky, Galaxy 7. This is no fucking lie. The signal is then transmitted to the local cable company that allows your Genesis to hook into the signal. The cable guys bring all the cool little adapter, you're spinning and ready to go. Then, wah-bam, it literally says wah-bam.
Wah-bam.
You've got games galore. Wow, the amazing wonders of technology.
First of all, you put so much effort into that.
That's a lot of energy.
I'm really proud of you.
Does anybody else feel like they're in a Street Sharks
God.
action figure commercial with Vin Diesel right now?
You should.
Yeah,
you fucking should.
Like, that's what I feel like right now.
Thank you.
Like, fuck Fast and the Furious, and I mean that.
No,
really.
First of all, on every possible thing, I just feel like I say that to people when I meet for the first time. Hi, I'm Noah. Fuck Fast and the Furious.
But yeah, that just I really was transported there.
Yeah, you were there.
Yeah, you were there. Yeah,
you were there.
I believed it.
But I also felt like for a second, if you had just gone with a country accent, you would have sounded just like that dude from the Jurassic Park. We use the code to fill in the holes.
That's right.
And bam, Dino DNA.
Dino DNA.
A baby dinosaur.
I can't do country. I don't do country. I don't know how to.
No, I one day I will get you to do it, but I want you to save it.
Okay.
Save it. Trying for something strange. But that's interesting.
It is very interesting.
Yeah.
Isn't Galaxy 7 one of those satellites that like crashed into Russia?
I thought that was the last Samsung that I had.
Oh, it probably could have been.
Yeah.
Do you have a pair of jeans with a burn hole in there? Then you had a Samsung.
Last
Galaxy
I
7.
read is that the Galaxy 7 spun out of orbit and is just in space
Oh,
somewhere.
wait, so it's that way. It went that way. It's not one of those satellites. Oh, but you know what? That's awesome, though. That's good for you to kind of read that in the 90s voice. You know, like because it's usually, I'm just going to applaud the effort you went there, being hungover to go with a full douchey voice.
I was 100% thinking I might throw up while I was doing it.
Well, I just want to say,
I'm glad I didn't.
You mentioned Street Sharks. Do you guys remember in the 90s, like there was one particular brand of like gummy snacks that were sharks?
Shark bites?
Slapped so harder
Shark
than
bites?
every. I think it was Shark Bites. They were better than any other fucking fruit snack
Absolutely.
out there. They were like pastel colors or something.
There was like the gray ones were so cool.
Oh, they were so cool.
Fucking incredible.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Street
like-
Sharks. I don't think I ever achieved watching Street Sharks while eating those fruit snacks. But my god, if I could go back in time, I definitely wouldn't stop 9/11. I would do that. What? I mean, eventually I would. You have several years. If you're going back to when Street Sharks are new, you got time while you put that.
Mr. Brown and I have discussed this.
Why?
We know that with this podcast, he's never running for office.
Oh, I have. I told my wife this. I told my wife, I'm like, there goes my Senate bid, by the way. You're the only one left.
Wait, it just depends on what state you run in.
No, right?
I mean, this could actually be launching your Senate bid depending on the state.
This is the United States of America in the 21st century. This absolutely does not disqualify me from holding the highest office in the land. I'm just saying I would not go back and stop 9/11 immediately. I'd wait a few years.
Oh my god!
But I mean, so we talked about Sega Channel, you know, like and the average price, and you know what it means for inflation. But so the peak amount of people in the height of concurrent subscriptions was 250,000. What?
I was going to say, was it 250,000
It
people?
was 250,000.
Yeah. I also did some research.
Oh my man, thank you. Goddamn Wikipedia, right? Like this back in everybody
Yeah,
else.
this was like American Pie for me. Like I was the guy who was trying to go down on Tara Reid, and I just wanted to make sure I was doing this right the first time. So I went and I found the book under Fluid Dynamics on the bottom shelf of the library. Wonderful little reference there that I didn't pick up when I watched the movie when I was, and like 16 years old. But yeah, so I was just researching the tongue twister on that, making sure I could drop some knowledge.
I was just like, you're doing an excellent job.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. But yeah, the 250,000 people, which back then
a whole lot,
probably was a million. If you would think about like today's standards, if you're going by that.
I mean, adjusting for spatial inflation.
Spatial inflation. Well, I know.
Speaking of adjusting for spatial inflation,
interesting you mentioned a million because that was what their initial projections for the first year was supposed to be.
Right.
So while although I would say 250,000 people is a good amount of people, but that's
surprising.
not at all what they wanted.
No, well, okay. So when you think about 250,000 times 15. That's a good chunk of change. But if your benchmark is $1 million, you're trying to make $15 million a month off of a service that isn't really working. That's what you're aiming for, right? 15 million. Now I know Turner and TCI, they were going to take their cut of that $15
of course.
a month. But still, that's a lofty goal in 1994, 1995.
Once again, Sega being very ambitious.
Yeah, right. Yeah, for sure. But, I mean, towards the end, it's still averaged around 230,000. So I guess what the whole point was is that even though it wasn't by any means a commercial success, the drop-off from its peak to where it was at the end, not a big deal.
And we're talking like 1998, which is, to me, I didn't even realize it was still around.
No, me neither.
And what's amazing to that is that, once 1996 hit, we were already well beyond the Sega console.
Oh, we'd all moved on.
We all moved on.
The SNES was on its last leg.
Was on its last leg. 64 was coming.
PlayStation was out.
PlayStation was out. We're already dealing with Dreamcast and.
I have my Saturn that I got
Sega Saturn
in the Christmas of that year sitting right over there. Like it's legendary stuff. legendarily bad, but legendary stuff.
Oh, Sega Saturn.
Ahead of its time.
Sega CD.
I know.
Sega 32X.
That's right.
So you mentioned Eternal Champions. The whole reason my father bought the Sega CD was because there was an extra edition of Eternal Champions on the Sega CD, and he would not be denied.
No.
So he bought some terrible fucking games for that.
Nor should he have been.
No, but he got Eternal Champions for that.
But the fact that, over the course of those 4 years, the work that they put into the technology really has paved the way for pretty much how gaming is today.
Yeah. Super huge.
It took a little bit of time for everybody else to kind of catch up. But if there was no Sega Channel, there is no PlayStation Network.
Yeah.
There's no Xbox.
It took 7 years.
It did.
It took 7 years and 3 months from the closing of Sega Channel until the launch of Xbox Live, the first of the modern consoles online subscription service. Xbox Live was fucking cheaper than $15 a month. But you still, that's how long it took for the rest of gaming to catch up to it. And we're just now, with the advent of the Xbox Game Pass, PlayStation 5, and Google Stadia, catching up to where they were trying to fucking be in cloud gaming 20 fucking years ago. Even more than 20, almost 30 years ago if you consider the Mega Net. Yeah.
That's wild,
huge,
isn't it?
Dude, huge. It's just because it was a terribly executed idea at the time does not make it a bad idea. I guess that's the point.
It was a great idea, and it was. I don't even think it was poorly executed. I think it was poorly timed, like the Mac said. It was just bad timing for it.
So to give you more of maybe a contemporary, parallel to something like this as a movie aficionado as I try to be, you think about Pixar. Right,
Yeah.
you think about and depending on who is listening to the podcast, Pixar was started by George Lucas and Lucasfilm, for people who may or may not know.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And as on board as George Lucas was for what he knew Pixar was going to be, he could not continue to fund it with the other advances that he was making in the rest of his company in visual effects and with audio and everything else he was doing.
ILM.
So you have to let Pixar go and hope that somebody else is going to pick things up where he was leaving it off. And, Apple did. Steve Jobs did. And
Steve Jobs decided to buy that one day instead of another black turtleneck.
Right.
And the rest is history.
Fun fact, I almost went for Halloween as Steve Blowjobs.
That's legendary.
It was close, but we decided to go in a different direction with our costumes. But
I mean, you could do that, non-Halloween.
also
Walk around with whitewashed jeans and a turtleneck and just ask random people at the coffee tree for a blowjob. You're definitely not going to get arrested.
No, I was
definitely not.
I was absolutely going to just go dressed as Steve Jobs, but just with a little bit of little schmutz on my mustache there, right on the goatee there.
Nice.
Just to give that a little extra something.
Okay, so I misinterpreted. I thought you were going to be like the actual Steve Jobs and solicit jobs from people, but you were going to be offering jobs, which just means you would really be popular at that party.
It was really only for the 12-foot skeleton that was in front of the house because it was eye level, pretty much. Where the schwanz would have been. So, but, it was really years away from Pixar developing the technology before they could do an animated movie. Yeah. And now every animated movie that's made today is made after what Pixar has done.
To look like a Pixar
movie. And if you take that parallel towards what happened with Sega Channel, if there is no Sega Channel, we do not have, or we're still maybe probably years away
from where we were,
from where we are now. And, I think we all should pay a great debt of gratitude to the great people at Sega for, just having that vision as to what this should be and what gaming needs to be. And just having the fucking balls to go do it.
Oh, yeah.
And there's no way if you're sitting in that room and you pitch this idea to the people who are going to pay for this, that they're going to be like, you can fucking do it. Like, there's no way. I can't think that they actually thought that this was going to really work. But I do think that they thought that if we get this going now, the technology will eventually catch up to the idea to get, and hopefully we'll still be in business because then we'll just fucking rule.
Well,
I mean, we were at a time. I mean, that whole mid to late 90s. I mean, like just really like 94 to 98. They were technologically, not just in gaming, but in every avenue of personal computers, were trying so much shit to get it to stick at the wall. I mean, CD-ROMs, people weren't convinced of CD-ROMs. Remember zip drives? Does anyone remember zip drives? Like they look like a floppy disk, but they could hold like 100 megabytes.
I do remember those.
Yeah. Zip drives. Like, and people are like, this is the fucking shit.
What do you mean remember zip drives? I'm still saving my documents to zip drives.
Don't be surprised. I worked at an office that had one of those, and I was like, why are we doing this? And they're like, just in case. We have important data backed up. But you have an important data that fits in 100 fucking megabytes. Like, that's your fucking important business model? What are we saving cardboard boxes now? Like just pretending. Dude, tell me this office doesn't have a bag full of other plastic bags. Because I fucking bet you that's what it does. Like no, but still, that's that whole era, right? I mean, I remember my mom being fucking absolutely stoked because she got a fucking PC that came right out of the box from CompUSA.
CompUSA.
That had, I don't know, was it like 5 gigabytes of memory on it? And she like dropped a pretty penny. I was happy because I got to play TIE Fighter for the PC. I got the stick on there. But like that's fucking where we were at in the mid 90s.
Yeah.
But I mean, shit was sticking, and some of it works now, and some of it we don't even talk about.
You know, Sega was always, unfortunately, going to be the younger brother at the table.
Yeah.
You know, Nintendo doing what Nintendo did, and I think also at the transition of the Nintendo 64, which you know, being the bridge console, I think to what we all have today. It's just, you know, the games that they had were so good that no matter what Sega was going to try to do, it just wasn't going to compete with what Nintendo was doing with the Nintendo 64.
I think that's completely fair.
Even at the small, because, you know, as we said here at the beginning of this, you had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of games for Nintendo, or for Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. But for Nintendo 64, you know, the volume definitely went down in terms of the games, but the quality of some of those games were so great that we still talk about them today as some of the greatest games ever.
I mean,
without going back on a previous episode of the podcast. But it's
available in the archives.
Yeah, in the archives.
In the archives, yes. So they just, unfortunately, because of what they were trying, it fizzled for Sega. And they ended up, the hardware not being the direction they could go in, and they just kind of really focused specifically on the software that they had left. But if you wonder if they maybe didn't try to go that hard into that area, would they still be here today?
I would be curious, and I didn't do it in my precursory research, but damn it, you better believe that I'm going to look into it when this episode airs, and I'm thinking about it. I wonder how much did Sega actually lose on that deal? Because that would be curious to me. Like, what, they didn't invent a new system for it. It's the same games that other people had already made for it.
Right.
They had to design a cartridge, but they're not supplying the cable infrastructure. That's on Turner and that's on TCI.
Right.
So, I mean, really, I don't think it was as big as a success. If it was a huge success, we would know about it better, right? But I don't know. I can't imagine they really ate their own ass on that as much as like they really could have, as much as they did on the Saturn. And I think that by that point, the Dreamcast was like a last gasp in the air, because talk about being technologically ahead of its time.
Dreamcast was such a great console.
The Dreamcast was fucking light years ahead of its time. But they had ate so much shit with the Saturn that unless the Dreamcast came out and just fucking started printing actual gold for them, there was no way they were going to make enough of it for it to make a fucking difference. And where Sony had clearly come up. And so now whatever market share was left after Nintendo was gracious enough to give you some market share, Sony was taking it.
I wouldn't even say market share. I think Sony basically said, you know what? Older people like video games too. Fuck you.
Yeah.
And just went in that direction.
They definitely did.
Where, you know, with Sega, you have Kid Chameleon, you have Echo the Dolphin.
Oh, man, Kid Chameleon, Jesus.
Right, you've got Sonic the Hedgehog, you've got these games, and Sony PlayStation goes, all right, here's Twisted Metal. Fuck you.
Yeah,
and then people are just like,
true.
people are just like, I'm not getting this anywhere else. And Sony just had you at that point.
Yeah, I mean, you really think, because Ocarina, like put 64 in, like Ocarina can be played by anyone that's old enough to read,
right,
and enjoy it, right? And I think Mario Kart and a lot of that stuff it is kid friendly, but it's timeless, right?
Right.
I think as I was a teenager when Dreamcast came out, right, and I think Dreamcast is deceptively geared towards your kids and your teenagers.
Right.
Shenmue. Amazing game, years ahead of its time.
Way too ahead of its time.
Yeah, but even then, it was down enough. There was nothing edgy about it. It was just really good. The Power Stone games, Seaman, Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver. But any of those great games that were also old enough to be enjoyed by an adult, guess what? Those things were also fucking available on the PlayStation.
That's right.
Yeah, and that's what it was. So. There's a lot of things. Ambition can be quite deadly. Listen, we all watch fucking Game of Thrones here. We all know what ambition Game of Thrones can be, especially if you try to make an 8th season with 6 fucking episodes.
Just don't make a season if there's not a book already for it. That's all you have to do.
Generally, I don't know if I'm one of the rare people, but I enjoyed the last season of Game of Thrones because I have no fucking vested interest in the books, having not read them. For me, the first 2 seasons of Game of Thrones were simply put. When people are like, "Oh, should I watch Game of Thrones?" and I'm like, "Do you have a personal problem with incest and beheadings?" If the answer is yes, then don't watch fucking Game of Thrones. But if you can deal with it and almost porn level quality titties, then you can get on Game of Thrones. The problem is it starts with porn level quality tits, but it ends with porn level quality dialogue. And I think that's where the show goes off the base.
I like that. Okay.
And first of all, that being said, I fucking like shitty movies. So I was totally fine with the last season of Game of Thrones. And I think The Battle of Winterfell is the best thing I've ever seen on a TV series.
If you had a television that you could actually see it.
Oh, I liked it. I couldn't see shit, but I liked it because I'm easily scared. So I'm like, oh, fuck, here you go. No titties in that episode, but I'll forgive them for no titties in that episode.
Game of Thrones... As the earliest adopter of that show of anybody that I know, I was on that.
Oh yeah, you're the reason I watched the show.
Yeah, I might have been a reason a lot of people that might end up listening to this podcast watch the show, as my word of mouth, as I will spread to everybody to make sure they listen to it.
That's what you do. You spread things to people's mouths.
I do.
And you are a generous person.
Sometimes we appreciate it, and sometimes we have to get a shot of penicillin.
Hell,
but I digress. Getting to that 8th season just devastated me, but as a pure fanboy, as somebody who has understands the process and went to school for the process and things like that, they literally came up with the one ending of the show that nobody fucking ever thought about.
Yeah,
and as somebody who tries to tell stories sometimes for a living. You're just like, well, fuck, well done. It doesn't mean that it was the ending that I wanted or anything along those lines, but you did something that I was not expecting, like Sega Channel, giving me something that I didn't even know that I wanted.
Look at
the ability to download video games and play it directly in my home after several restarts and trying to, angrily download a video game after 45
more restarts
minutes.
than a Batman franchise.
Yeah. So if Sega, let me ask you this question here, gentlemen.
Mm-hmm. Good segue, by the way, for popping your podcast cherry. That was smooth.
Yeah, thank you. I'm definitely feel like I'm settling in here as we've kind of gone into hour 12 of the recording process.
You don't even know. It's been an hour. All right, you don't even know. Try fucking listening to last week's shenanigans on fucking 8 hours of Halloween Havoc 1995. My 401k matured before we were fucking done with that episode.
That experience is why we are never doing it quite like that ever again.
No, we can't.
So gentlemen, I was intrigued in the Halloween Havoc. I was not able to participate in that one. No. Why didn't you guys, and I don't know exactly how you did it or not, but why didn't you just simulcast the pay-per-view
and
just provide your commentary as it went?
Well, because, and that's a very good question. and I know a lot of people
just
like
the Halloween Havoc 95 watch party.
I don't like watch-alongs because I listen to a lot of podcasts when I'm on the road, and a lot of people referring to things that I physically can't see.
Yeah.
But if I watched the thing they're talking about, or do watch, and that person is thinking, hey, when this thing happened, that was fucking crazy, right? And then they talk for 4 hours about that one fucking segment, like monster trucks on the roof of of Hobo Hall next to the Joe in Detroit. Then so the short answer is I don't like watch-alongs. I know Doc doesn't like watch-alongs.
They're not like I've tried actually just doing a watch along, and it just I don't know.
It's not. But that being said, we do have. I'm not going to go any further into this, but we do have ideas.
Yes.
That if we do dip our toes into the watch along thing, I promise you, this will be worth everybody's time.
Yes.
I hope it's going in the direction that I would hope it would go in.
Absolutely.
And these are conversations that we've had before.
It is absolutely something that we will consider doing in the month of January.
Well, thank God for that.
Yes.
We're finally going to do what we've said all these years.
All these years.
That is excellent.
But we will. But as far as being able to, watch along and tag along, I'm very grateful that you were here for this.
Well, thank you.
So I have 2 lasting questions for both of you.
Okay.
About the Sega Channel.
Yes.
So the first is the Sega Channel. Simply put, it's got to be most people's first interaction with the concept of online gaming before we even knew what the fuck that was, right?
Right.
So obviously we've now decided that it's ahead of its time.
Right. For me, it was Oregon Trail, Sega Channel.
Oregon Trail or being online gaming.
Yeah, well, in terms of like interactive, multi-pronged gaming, fuck the Oregon Trail.
Fuck the Oregon Trail, dude. Dysentery. I get dysentery thinking about it.
Dysentery.
I don't even know what dysentery really is.
It could never buy enough fucking wheat to carry across that fucking past the Mississippi River.
I don't know how many times I've a fucking random tidal wave has knocked me off crossing a fucking stream, but I'm pretty sure that you don't get fucking hit like Lord of the Rings, the fucking galloping horses is what I fucking picture every time. It's like, you're gonna try to cross the river here, sure. Fuck you are. Jesus Christ, Oregon Trail. But I asked, so the Sega Channel, though, I mean, obviously ahead of its time, but it goes into the idea, yes or no? Do you think the Sega Channel, did that in any way speed up the nature, the progression of online gaming for us, or would it have happened in the same timeline that we came? And because think in mind, the internet, we had, Team Fortress and Half-Life was out pre-05, but Xbox Live, as we put it together, was 2005. Would have Xbox come later, or do you really think it honestly didn't make a big bearing on it?
Well, in terms of what Sega Channel did for the infrastructure of online gaming, I think is something that needs to be, mentioned, is that, in terms of what they had the cable companies have to do, because at those point in times, the signal that you were getting, especially early on in the launch of the Sega Channel, was pure shit. And it really forced the broadcast companies to clean up their signal.
That's right.
And even, and I don't know if I have my timing right on this or not, but in terms of the transition from, going to digital, where cable was concerned, there are fingerprints on the Sega Channel for helping that process move in the right direction. Now, you talk about online gaming. I often think about like Microsoft and Xbox as being just, I'm gonna just go ahead and put on a glove, put a little lube up here, and I just want to stick as many fingers as I can up Sony's ass.
And I had rushed to get it out there.
But because I'm Microsoft, I have way more computer than you have computer, Sony. So I'm just going to go in this direction. I do think that because of what Microsoft was trying to do to, separate it from Sony's dominance at that point, that was really the only logical direction they could go in. And because of the company, they had the ability to maybe get that faster than anybody else would. But in terms of just laying that groundwork, I don't think I think it obviously gets there. Maybe not as soon, but I also don't think it would have been as long because, again, Microsoft computers.
If Genesis wouldn't have done it, then someone would have tried it too.
But in terms of just what it was able to do to really put that first floor that concrete pad down so that the others could stand on top of it to do what it need. Absolutely. I think what it did for that growth was just unprecedented.
Good point. I just want to add before you answer, I just want to say here's an interesting little tidbit. Mm-hmm. So the first of the next generation, the 6th generation, as we covered in the Grand Theft Auto 3 episode, a game to have concurrent console online gaming was the Dreamcast. All right, which is interesting. Phantasy Star Online was one of the first games for that to do that. The original Xbox released with guts from the Dreamcast inside it, which allowed the Xbox Live to happen. Whenever Dreamcast folded, Microsoft had been working on designs, but they weren't quite sure how to be able to power. Wasn't really like processing speed, but it was how to regulate the power in the system so that this thing didn't overheat and was able to spin the drive X many RPMs per minute. And they looked at they bought some of the early, trademarks for the Dreamcast and absolutely like, oh, we'll just do that then. And the Xbox was born.
That's pretty cool.
So the fact that the Xbox Live service comes about because Sega Channel using actual physical hardware used in the Dreamcast means so Xbox Live #thank you Sega.
Wow. How about that?
So how about you?
I'll echo kind of what Mac was saying, and the fingerprints and like the mark and the lasting impression that Sega Channel made in the gaming space is felt today in a very like long view sort of way. But I believe that we're going to get there anyhow. I mean, it was going to happen anyhow. Will it look exactly the same? Honestly, probably.
Yeah.
Was it ambitious? Was it important? The developers who are making games now were playing Sega Channel as kids and teenagers.
Yeah.
Right. So to that end, you kind of have to think, well, that had to have spurned ideas and inspirations. Like, what could we do later on? Like, this is where we want to be one day. I remember when I played Sega Channel. Now I'm like 42 years old. Now I'm working for Microsoft or working for Sony, or working for whoever. I think that Sega Channel allowed people to believe that this was possible on a bigger scale in the United States of America, at least.
Yeah.
But I do definitely believe that we're going to get there no matter what, and I feel like it'll be largely the same.
Good point. Something that just came to my mind as you were talking, though, is something we take for granted these days is a game library, right? Like you're on your Xbox, your PlayStation, you shit on your Switch. When Nintendo even being generally pretty far behind on how it is in the last couple of generations.
Yeah.
A game library. Does that shit happen without a Genesis? Without a Sega Channel? Because you downloaded your games into your library. And now, so much of my collection over there in games is digital. Right. I have games that I never will have the physical version of because I do as boop, boop, and there we are. Automatically downloaded the patches and shit for me, which that's a whole fucking separate can of worms.
Yes.
Last question I have to ask you, and before we wrap this up, and it's a very simple but eager, willing question. If the Sega Channel was a person, male, female, trans, both, neither, would you fuck it?
No.
Mac?
I would, but I'd use a lot of protection. Probably a double bag on that.
Double bag, like a hefty?
Yeah. Possibly, or even paper over top, to
paper and plastic.
We probably would, use some twisty ties down there just to be sure.
For their safety too.
Yeah, for their safety. I've had worse.
Yeah.
But not many.
Not many.
How
about you?
Oh, I'd go raw. I'd raw dog that, and it would be weird. But you know what? And there in the corner, after things got real weird, there's Leonardo crying.
Oh my god! It all comes back.
Around
with a giant 8-foot turtle dick.
Just barbed. I don't know if turtle dicks are barbed, but someone can Google that and let me know. But speaking of things that fuck, this episode is fucks. But you know what also fucks? Next week.
Oh.
Mac, would you care to come back next week?
You know what, gentlemen? I think I've enjoyed this so much that yes, I would like to actually come back next week.
You would. So basically, you're not gonna. This appearance on the show wouldn't be, as you would say, a one-hit wonder. See that? That's a pro-level segue right there.
Yeah, it would. I would like to think that it is not just a hit it and quit it, but a hit it and then nurture it and provide it with not just love, but, growth.
Nice.
And support and, blossom it into a long-term commitment where possibly someday I could meet your parents without goiters.
Take it to Tom's Diner then quit it.
Just right. Yeah.
Right. Perfect. Because next week, it's music episode again. And Doc, what are we going to talk about?
Well, I think we already covered that. But one-hit wonders.
Yeah.
Those songs that you grew up with that, you go, whatever happened to that group? Whatever happened to that band, that artist?
I really thought you were going to say porn soundtracks. With that segue.
Yeah, later.
No,
later.
I misread the room.
I do have a playlist on my Spotify that is 70s porno music, and I am not too proud to say that despite many attempts at using that as a soundtrack to get laid, it has worked one time, but out of spite, just to get me to promise to never play it again. So there you go. But we're going to try something new, so we're going to talk about one-hit wonders next week. We're going to put our own Spotify playlist up on our social media.
Yes.
So not only can you listen to the episode, but hey, you know what? We've curated a playlist of the songs we're going to talk about. Maybe some that we don't, maybe some extra, just so you can kind of jam along. We learned from if we mentioned Drew, that when you're talking about music, people actually kind of want to listen to the music you're talking about, right?
It's a very valid point.
Yeah, so God damn it, we're instead of letting you wander around and get some random dickheads hits for his playlist, we're the dickheads that are going to get the hits for that playlist, and they're going to keep on coming. So I guess next week, right? So I think we've all established here, just to kind of summarize here, in case you just decided to fast forward to the last 45 seconds of this episode, that Sega Channel is responsible for all modern gaming.
Yes.
And if it was a person, Doc would not fuck it, which I don't really believe you.
I'd spoon it.
Oh, see, that's nice. See, that's considerate. That's the kind of person you are.
That wasn't an option.
Oh, no, see, I wouldn't even consider it an option.
Are we fucking it or not?
I'm talking about
going to Netflix and try to get into a substantial long-term commitment.
That is somebody's daughter, Sarah.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody said that was an option.
No. I don't think I would be in a committed long term. I would take it. If it got hungry after sex, I'd say, here's the value menu at Taco Bell. You got $5. That includes tax. Get it. I got to take you to your Greyhound station. I got another thing after this. That's how I'd feel about it. I got Xbox coming over in 8 years.
I have to get ready.
But anyway, speaking of getting ready, we're going to get ready for next week.
Yes. Oh, yes. And don't forget, we have a Twitter that you should probably follow.
Have a Twitter.
Yeah. It is at Nothing Good Pod. That is at Nothing Good Pod, all one word.
Beautiful.
Follow us. Wow. We have a single follower. So
one single follower. It's me. It's me. But that's okay. We have that. We have Twitter. We're on Insta, Facebook. Our YouTube channel's coming along. Just basically, if you want to tell people about it, share some of our useless bullshit.
Yeah. If you've been enjoying all of this, and I hope you have,
you better, Gibby.
Yeah. Please tell anybody that you think would be interested in what we're talking about or just wants to get a good laugh here and there. We appreciate all of our listeners, even you, Gib. And
especially you.
If you can find Gib on social media, he's one of my favorite people to follow for everything.
He's the best social media.
I don't laugh harder at anything than when I look at his feed.
It's the best.
It's amazing.
Best.
Yeah.
So, you get 15 seconds after I get done talking.
Okay.
To the fine people of Peru, Canada, Australia, Algeria. I don't think we're in Bosnia. We're definitely in Austria, the United Kingdom. What do you got to say?
Well, I'll say I'll go to our Canadian brethren in this one. That as a hockey fan, I hope to drop some random hockey quips and knowledge throughout perhaps future podcasts. So if you want to go top shelf with the peanut butter, as they say north of the border where Mama hides the cookies, definitely make sure you tune in.
So I guess we're saying, hey, Canada, you're down to puck.
We are down to puck.
There it is.
I like that.
Yeah.
And we're down to puck you up every single Tuesday. So tell your friends. Guys, I'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Take care, guys.
Nothing good.